Today is the 4th of May, and it's a peculiar day. The 4th of May, it signals the end of the 30-day period that Nkosazana Zuma had put in place after they had called the national state of disaster to an end. So many people out there are getting the information at the moment that the government is allegedly planning or considering to make an announcement tonight. I've just come off a call with the SABC, and they had alluded something to the same. And they've asked me what I thought of this. And I said, well, how do you know the government is going to make an announcement? That's what you've got to consider. I mean, there's nothing on the government's website to say that they are going to make an announcement and what that announcement is. But they seem to know or have spoken to someone reliable that the government is in the process of preparing to make an announcement. I also saw somewhere else on another site, a link that somebody sent me, showing that the government considers or considering to have the mask wearing rules in place, etc. You've got to ask yourself, what is the government up to? What is the point of having any of these regulations in place when they've called the state of disaster to an end, when by their own words, by their own mouths, they have said they now have everything in place, the hospitals will be able to cope, and this is why they've called the disaster to an end. But besides that, for a moment, let's talk about the court case. So for anyone watching perhaps for the first time, I'll just give you a brief background. You'll know back on the 15th of March, the government, the health minister, he published regulations giving the public 30-day notice. These are regulations that he was considering to bring into law. All right. So they are not law yet. So they've asked the public to comment. And with that, we spotted that there was something wrong with the notice, in that the government was actually stating that they are issuing this notice in terms of Section 90, subsection 4C of the National Health Act. Now, you'll recall in many other broadcasts that I've said to you, that provision in the Health Act actually says that the minister, only if circumstances necessitate the immediate publication of regulations, then he can do so without public consultation contemplated in A. And when you look at Section 90, subsection 4A, it tells you the minister must publish all regulations that he contemplates in the Gazette at least 3 months before the date contemplated for their promulgation. That's it. So we took the government to court. We ended up in the court on the 14th of April. They then tried to argue somehow, try and make the court convinced that this was not an urgent matter, but the court disagreed. The court agreed with us that the case was actually urgent, and this is why it got postponed to the 26th. So 26th, we went to court, and some of you would have watched the live of the hearing, and you would have heard the arguments of the government's lawyers. They said that Section 94C, it gives the minister a latitude that he doesn't have to stick to at least 3 months. He could choose any period, and therefore the period of 30 days is permitted in law. But they haven't shown any proof, any evidence of where in the law, where in the National Health Act, it says that they can limit the period to 30 days. So our representation obviously put it to the court that Section 94C is very clear. You publish without giving notice. That's what that provision gives you. Without giving notice of public public consultation, you don't require it. If you do want consultation, you have to publish it under Section 90, subsection 4A. And according to that, you have to give the public at least 3 months opportunity, at least 3 months. It doesn't mean just 3 months, at least. And the judge, as you would have seen, judge started asking loads of questions back and forth. And then there was also a legal representative, Mr. Reg Willis, who was representing the ACDP, and he made submissions as an amicus curiae. Amicus curiae means a friend of the court. So it's someone who really comes and advises the court on the law and tell them what they should be doing, what the court should be considering in the course of this hearing, given the matter before the court. And Reg Willis also told the court that Section 94C is categoric. It is unequivocal and it is unambiguous, meaning it is clear-cut. You publish. If you want to publish the regulations without consultation, that's the section that you use. But if you want consultation, you have to use 90, Section 4, subsection A, right? That's it. That's what is told the court. Now, what exactly was our issue at court? Our issue was the period for consultation. It's the period of consultation. The government's lawyers tried to make the case out to be about the regulations. That's why the court asked our advocate, she asked him, Mr. Sibanda, so if the minister had gone ahead and published the regulations in terms of Section 90, subsection 4C, without asking public consultation, would we be here today? And he said, no, my lady, no, your ladyship, we would not be here, because he has the right to publish them without giving notice for public comment. But if he wants comment, your ladyship, he has to publish them under 90 subsection 4, subsection A. And that's it. And then what would you have then done? So we would have gone and challenged the regulations afterwards. This is a matter about the legality of the consultation period. So the government's lawyers then tried to convince the court, oh, that this was lawful and that the government had the latitude to choose between 3 months and 30 days. We all know how that went down. In the best of terms, that was, let me put it to you this way. This is how they would put it in England. That was a load of rubbish, basically, all right? And that interpretation was also rubbished by Mr. Reg Willis, who pointed it out. There's no such provision. What the government was relying on, they were pointing to the Promotion of Access to Justice Act, number 3 of 2000, the regulations thereof. In the regulations of that piece of legislation, at regulation 18, subsection 2, that's where it talks about 30 days could be given for public consultation. But the government's lawyer admitted in the National Health Act, The Health Act, it talks about at least 3 months. That's it. There's nothing in the Health Act that gives the minister 30 days power to limit your consultation period to 30 days. Nothing. It's nowhere. So the judge ended the hearing and said she will reserve judgment. Reserving judgment means she won't give the judgment on the day. And as you know, she didn't give it on the day. And she would hand it down electronically to the parties. So electronic hand down of the judgment means that she would send it by email to the parties. Who would send it by email? The judge, right? Because she is the judge who presided over it. Y'all recall that, yeah? Now, each judge has their own registrar. It's like a secretary, each judge. Now, this judge also has her own secretary. And this is the same secretary with whom we have been communicating all along in the preparation of this case. We even had been communicating with the judge directly, and obviously we've been copying in the state attorneys as well, those who were representing the government. That's the normal process. So guess what? On the 29th of April, we received an email. We received an email from a completely different person, right? This is a person who is not the secretary of the judge who presided over this hearing. Also, that secretary that sent us the email works in another judge's chambers. We could see that in this signature panel of the email. So it's a completely different judge. And what does the email say? The email says, dear all, please find electronic hand down. This judgment is being handed down on behalf of Judge Slingers. On behalf of Judge Slingers. So we had a good look at this email. So we opened up the document and we looked at the document. First of all, we don't know this name, never dealt with her, and it comes from the chambers of a completely different judge. A judge who hadn't presided over the hearing. We looked at the document that they sent us, the judgment. It's not dated. There's no court stamp on it. And it doesn't have the names of who the legal representatives were for the parties. That's the document that got sent to us. So what we naturally did, we went on the blower and we sent the court an email. So we sent the judge, we sent it to the judge, we sent it to the judge's own secretary, and we sent it also, we copied in the lady who sent it from the other judge's office, and we copied in the state attorneys as well. Everybody has been copied in. What did we say in this email? We wrote a letter to them raising our concerns about the document. Firstly, we wanted to know, is there a dated version? We raised the point to them that the document is not dated. The document isn't court signed. And the names of the representatives aren't in there. But you know what else is disturbing? That email coming from the office, from the chambers of another judge, they hadn't even copied in that judge from whose chambers they are sending. So the secretary is the only person who sent it from another judge's office, but she hadn't even copied in the judge from whose office she's sending it from. What's more, the judge who presided over the case, you all saw the judge, the lady judge there. She was not even copied in on the email, and neither was her secretary copied in. Now, Liz, if you're going to ask somebody to hand something down for you, to do something for you, at least you would expect them to copy you in so that you can make sure that it was done, right? The judge is a relevant person to this. No, she was not copied in on this at all. So what are our concerns about this? The 29th, we sent them that letter, making that inquiry, no response. The next day, we waited all day. We tried everything. Loads of, we waited, no response. The next day on the 30th, we sent another email with another letter, and we updated the letter slightly to add a few more things that we were concerned about. No reply, nothing whatsoever. So we thought, okay, hang on a minute, it's weekend. So we let it slide. And you all know Monday came, it was another public holiday. On Tuesday morning, yesterday, we went to the court quick and early, right? But before we went, we sent them another email, the same email with the same letter, and making sure, to make sure that they received the email, we gave them a call. So we called the registrar of the judge who presided over the case. Why did we call her? Just to make sure that she received the email, just in case, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt, just in case they didn't get the email. So we asked her, did you get it? She said, yes, she got it. I said, well, are you going to reply? And she said, well, just give us a moment. She then hangs up and she sends us an email stating, thank you, we've received your letter dated on the 29th and on the 30th. Okay, thank you for that. And the judgment had been handed down on the 29th. That's the end of it. So we said, well, okay, we wrote back and we say, we acknowledging what you're saying. Thank you for acknowledging that you received our letters on both the 29th and the 30th. You know, obviously begs the question, why had you not written back to us given the concerns that we're raising there? So we asked the lady, can we get a copy of the side of the dated judgment? And can you also look at all the other questions that we've asked? We're concerned because this is coming from a different judge's chambers, and it doesn't come from the judge who presided over the matter. She became very elusive. And in that letter that they sent us, I'm going to make that public because there's nothing personal about it. It's a public document and we will make it public to you. They became very defensive in this document, in this email of them, simply suddenly saying to us that somehow we are making preposterous, and it sounds preposterous and as if though we are accusing them of things. We hadn't accused them of anything. We're just asking questions. We just want to know why the document isn't dated, why the document isn't stamped, why the document doesn't bear the names of the legal representatives, and why the judge who presided over the matter wasn't copied in on this email. And even the judge from whose chambers it was sent, why weren't they copied in? No answer yet. So we repeated the same questions. What we then did, we gave them another call. And on this occasion, we told them that we are recording the telephone calls for the purpose of our record. So we asked the judge's secretary one more time, can you please send us the dated version of this purported judgment. If you have it, you ought to be having it. If that document emanates or originates from the judge who heard the case, if it emanates from her office, then surely they must have a copy of it. Guess what the lady told us? Oh, well, I am unable to send it to you because I have problems with my emails. I said, okay. And so we thought, well, take your time then. Maybe it will get fixed. So we hung up. About 30 or 40 minutes later, I can't remember exact time, she then sends us an email. Guess what she says in the email? She now says in the email, oh, I have instructions from the judge to tell you that the judgment had been handed down on the 29th. And if you want to take things further, you should contact the secretary or the registrar who sent you the email. Also, you can get a copy from the typists. Hello? From the typist? She said it's with the typist. But if it's with the typist, and we've already received a typed copy, it doesn't make sense, does it? What is it doing at the typists? So we said, well, how had it thus been sent? I mean, if it was sent to that lady to send to us, surely you must have a record of what you've sent to her. In what format was it sent? Was it given to her as a hard copy, or was it sent to her by email for her to email to us? Now, if they sent it to her as an email, surely all they need to do was just forward it to us. Just forward us what you forwarded, what you emailed the other person, if that is the case. Also, isn't it rather peculiar that if they had emailed this to the other registrar to email to us, why would the judge not use her own secretary, as is customarily the practice, and it's the secretary we've always been receiving communication from on behalf of the judge? Why would this judge be using another secretary to send it to us, and that secretary doesn't copy her in? It just raises a few more questions. Maybe, a little unnecessary questions, but on the back of no answers to our inquiry, you cannot help but starting to think for yourself. So we're giving them the benefit of the doubt. So we wrote them another letter again, asking for clarity. First of all, how was this document sent to the other registrar, to the other secretary? Was it sent by email? If it was sent by email, you have to ask yourself, why couldn't the judge just send it to us direct? If she could take all of that time to send an email to that person, why not just send it to us? Just like she said in the hearing, it will be handed down to you electronically. Right? Now, if the judge hadn't sent it to that person, we also have another question, a concern. Where did that secretary get our email addresses from? Where did that secretary get our lawyer's telephone number from? Because she called our lawyer at 3:47. So it's about 13 minutes before 4 p.m. to say, check your email. The judgment is ready. That's it. She didn't say who she was. She didn't, it was a female voice, didn't introduce herself, didn't say her name, and didn't say from which chambers she was calling either. But we can tell by the email that the email comes from another judge's office. And the person hung up. Now this document, we then had a look at this document and we checked, let's have a look and see, when was this document actually, how was this document created and when was it created? So we had a look. That document is a scanned PDF. Now, when it's a scanned PDF, it means you can't edit the document, you can't do anything. It looks like a picture now. So when it's a scanned PDF, it means you had to have to print it off, and then you have the physical paper, right? And then you put it through a scanner, and then it makes an image. And then that image is then saved as a PDF, right? So it means that that secretary had to have printed it off of her computer if she received it electronically, scanned it, and then created the PDF and then sent it to us. If she hasn't received it in electronic form, meaning if it wasn't emailed to her, then it means it would have been given to her in a hard copy. Again, that begs the question why the judge would bypass her own secretary and then go and give it to another secretary to hand down to us. Now, if that person received it and she has sent us an undated version of what she says is the judgment from that judge, it doesn't contain the names of the legal representatives of the parties, and it doesn't contain the court stamp either. You have to ask yourself, why would the judge hand a document like that to the person for hand down? Surely the judge must know that the document needs to be dated. We need to know what the date this document was created and finalized. Surely it has to be stamped before handing down to the parties, of course. And the document must contain our legal representatives, which it doesn't. So to this date, what we then did yesterday, which was the 3rd, we had sent that final email to the judge, and we copied in the lady who had sent it to us and all the other parties. So the government's lawyers, we copied all of them in, and we've asked some very serious questions. We want to know where the dated document is. Today, well, as we were told by them, the lady offered for us to go to the printers or the typers that we could get an uplift copy there. So we did go today. We went there to try and get it there. No, it wasn't there anymore. It was now with the senior registrar. And the senior, so we asked a copy from the senior registrar, and she said, no, she can't give it yet because she still has to cast her eye on it. Okay, that's rather weird, because the judge who presided over the case, her secretary said the file is no longer with them. Don't they keep a copy of the file? Shouldn't they be keeping a copy of the file? Or we're asking them, forward us the original dated document that you had sent to the other registrar. They still haven't. And the funny thing is this, you remember that I said the judge's registrar said that she's having difficulty sending us that document, the dated document, she says, and that is stamped, because she has trouble with her email. That's what she said. But she managed to send us an email afterwards, after she told us that she had difficulty, in which she refers us to go to the typist. But still, she hasn't sent us the document that we requested. A lot of unanswered questions. So we've written to them, and today we had received no response in writing from them. And on the back of that, what we've done, we have submitted an appeal. And we are appealing that document, that judgment as it is, with the contents, because I'll tell you now I'll just give you one part. There's a reason why we're not disclosing that document to the public until it is dated and court stamped. Then we'll share that with the public and show you exactly what it says. This is what is written in that judgment, in the copy that we have. Listen closely. You remember what the government, how they interpreted section 90, subsection 4, small c. They said, oh, the government is latitude. They can just use 30 days if they want to. There's a space between 30 days or 0 days and 90 days. There's nothing magic about 90 days and there's nothing magic about 30 days. And it's as long as the public gets an opportunity to comment. And it does allow the minister just to give 30 days. The judgment says that's okay. I have to read to you exactly what the judgment says. I'm just gonna open that document up here on my desktop, and I'm going to read to you exactly what it says there. It's at a paragraph 26. Now I've put that out in the press release, but for the benefit of anyone who is on here and who may not have seen it, let me read this to you quickly. At paragraph 26 in that document judgment that we received, this is what the judge says. In any event, the criticism leveled by the respondent on the applicant's interpretation of section 94, subsection C of the National Health Act does not hold water, and the respondent fails to provide substance for the interpretation it wants to afford to section 94C. In plain language, plain simple English, the court says their disagreement about what we say the law says is wrong. They are wrong. And it also says that their interpretation about that there's 30 days, you can just use 30 days, or the government can just pick and choose whatever period they want. They say that fails. They say, and there's no supporting evidence to the argument that they raised to that interpretation. So the court dismisses their interpretation. So the court doesn't agree with them, right? But now listen to this. The court says that, yet the court turns around in another paragraph and uses the arguments and interpretation of the government to say that we are wrong. But she's just said that their interpretation doesn't hold water and it's completely wrong. But then she uses that argument and says, our interpretation is wrong. Okay, it doesn't make sense. It's a contradiction. Okay, it's a contradiction. So that is but one thing that you can see, that you can, okay, I've quoted it there, and once this document comes out, as I'll make it public, it's stamped and dated, and you can read it for yourself, and we'll go through it line by line to show you the ridiculousness of the argument that is raised by the court, if it is indeed the correct document. As I say, because it is not dated and it's not court stamped. But we have already submitted an appeal, and our appeal has been received by the court today, and the chief registrar has confirmed this afternoon that they are in receipt of that. And even to date, this is weird. I I know this is weird. The hearing on the 14th, an order was given. We still haven't got a signed and stamped order from the judge. Please tell me what's going on here. You are perfectly entitled to draw your own inferences. You're perfectly entitled to your own opinion and your thought processes and your belief about what's going on. Tracy Crook says, dodgy as hell. Dodgy, there's the word. So I'm telling you as it is. So according to that judgment, they dismiss the case. How can you dismiss the case when you effectively say the other party is wrong? She says the government's interpretation is wrong. So how can you give the government credit then? It doesn't make sense. So here we are today. We've submitted the appeal, and as you have heard on the wires, the government is now contemplating about what they're going to say tonight. They're managing your expectations now because they know tonight is the deadline. And when tonight expires without them having any regulations in place, there will be no regulations in place and none of that would apply. As a matter of fact, they have already played their hand. They told the public the reasons for bringing the national state of disaster to an end is because well over or up to 80% of the population has now achieved immunity and that they have everything in place now to cope. That's what they said. This is what they said. So they called the national state of disaster to an end. So if it's at an end, you don't need the regulations anymore. You don't need the rules. It means there is no, and you are capable and prepared to deal with this. We know how questionable these regulations are. And let me just reiterate to you one point. Did you realize, and how many of you had known, that the regulation that the majority, if not everybody, had commented on are the regulations for the surveillance and control of notifiable medical conditions? That's notice number 1882. There were 4 notices that were issued. 4. Now that notice 1882, the surveillance and control of notifiable medical conditions, you had to send an email, remember, to Tsakani, mistsakani.furumela@health.gov.za. Remember? Did you know that the other 3 notices had different email addresses where you had to send it to? How many of you had commented on those regulations about the border controls, about what they would do with the body of someone when they die? Have you commented on that? So it means it's highly likely that you have submitted no comments to those. And if the minister hadn't received any comments on that, he could simply think, well, the public doesn't have any objection. You only commented to one lot. There are 3 other different email addresses, 3 other different email addresses, and you can go check it for yourself. All right. Actually, as you all know, whilst we are at it, let me go and find that for you and actually show it to you real quick. All right. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly share my screen with you, and so that you can see it for yourself. That these, your government, as you know, obviously in one of the videos that I've pointed out, that you had been bamboozled about the 10-day extension that you had been given. It turns out it was a useless 10-day extension because they asked you to comment on a set of regulations that was actually no longer valid. Right, let's check this if you can see this. So just open that up. Let me just see for the notification that you can see the screen. So we'll go to notices, South African government notices, and let's just type in the notice number 4. Well, you can see there's my search activity there already. So just open that up, and I'm going to make this slightly bigger so you can see there. So you can see there's 4 on this date, 15 March, 15 March, 15 March, 15 March, and they are all the same numbers. Okay, government notice number 46048, 46048, 46084. So this government gazette number that he issued, he had 4 different notice numbers: 1882, 1883, 1884, and 1885. Now check this out. Okay, if you open this one up, this is the one with the surveillance and control of medical notifiable diseases. Just make that slide. Oh, it's too big. There. And you look at this, and you can see there that you need to send to mrtakani.furumela@health.gov.za. You see that? Okay. Check this out. Check the other notices that were also issued. This one that deals with public health measures at the point of entry. Let's open that one up. It's from the same government gazette. Look at this. Who you should be sending it to funeka.bongweni@health.gov.za. How many of you have sent to her? Have you commented on these regulations? You haven't had a you probably haven't. Don't know how many of you. And again, to prove the point to you, look at this one, which is to deal with the management of human remains, of dead bodies when people die. Did you know that you were supposed to be sending to Daniel Hunkuna@health.gov.za? If he hasn't received any emails, you hadn't commented on these regulations that he is proposing. Do you see now? And I don't want to waste your time by going to the 4th one, because you should be well upset about how your government is bamboozling you. And we can now see that despite presenting the common sense and the facts to the government makes stuff up. And they tried that in court on the 26th. Now, this purported judgment that we've received literally tells them, you're talking nonsense. It's a load of bollocks. It doesn't make sense. They rubbish it. But then they turn around and tell the public that your interpretation is wrong as well. What? Really? They're making stuff up as they go. It's not in the law. It's either there or it isn't. And that's it. So we're appealing this. As you can see, there's a lot of things that needs to be answered. And as soon as we get those answers, we will disclose this to you. There are several other organizations that we met with last night, and they are absolutely aghast. They are absolutely shocked at what's going on here. And people are raising some very serious concerns about the impartiality of the judiciary. People are entitled to their thoughts. People are entitled to their beliefs. And you are free to express them. Always remember that. It's your basic constitutional right, and you have a right to share that information, your thoughts and belief, with any person in any format. You'll see this for yourselves, and we're going to keep you posted on the development of the appeal that we have submitted today. Tomorrow morning, well, this afternoon, I received a call from the SABC, and they've called me a little while ago, just before I went live here, and they're going to be interviewing me tomorrow morning, very early on SAFM. So for those of you who wake up nice and early, the interview is going to be at 5:45 your time, yeah, 5:45 a.m. on SAFM. So y'all can tune in. I'll be talking to a gentleman by the name Elvis Preslin, not Presley, Elvis Preslin. They're going to be interviewing us about the issue of our court case and that of the regulations. All right. So obviously I'm going to have to be waking up an hour earlier, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine. It's only 1 hour sacrificing, and so we'll be talking there. We've also sent out the information to the other news media. They are aware. We've sent them the press release, the same press release that you can see, which is on our website, the document that is being circulated as well. Share that news, spread that news. My friends, the next phase that we are in right now, okay, as of tomorrow, is going to be most critical. This is very, very important. It's either we do or we don't. And we've already taken a stand. It's either we do or we don't. Now remember, there are genuinely people out there who are they don't even have the foggiest idea of these regulations being in place. They don't know. It's not put into their language. They don't even have phones. They don't know how emails work. They don't have email access. You have load shedding each and now and every day, let alone trying to understand what they are saying. Someone commented on the live hearing, and this person said, and I'll never forget that, and we actually raised that in our meeting, in Action for Freedom's meeting. And someone commented, said, look at all this legal language that they're talking in court. How are we supposed to know what these things mean? And trying to read the law, the legislation, and then they just want to give you all this short space of time when you cannot even understand what it means. Do you really think that the days is still good enough for you? Hell no. And then they still want to make this stuff up as they go. What about the people who live there on the fringes? Tell you, what about the guy who is homeless, who sits under the bridge, who doesn't have a phone? He has a right. He or she, they have a right also to participate in this democracy. And their rights deserves protection as well. There is no evidence to support. We don't know whether those people are even computer literate, whether they can afford to go online and read that stuff and understand it. You need time to process this. These regulations that are being proposed, it's not just it's not light stuff. This is not light. There's nothing funny about it. This will flip your life downside up and upside down. This will change society like you've never seen before. This is the foreseeable risk unless you take this serious. You're going to have to wait and see what the adverse effects are on you. On the 28th, the ACDP went to court. Guess who was there in court, giving the court and pushing back on the ACDP's case? A group named Section 27. Do you know who funds them? George Soros. These are external players who are interfering in the judicial system, who are interfering and blocking the disclosure of the risks to the people concerning these injections. That's literally what they are there for. They want to make sure that the evidence of Pfizer's side effects of their drug doesn't get to be heard in court. This is what they're literally seeking to do. And you know what? Did you know that SAFRA actually said, oh, they didn't know about this? So if they didn't know about it, How the heck could they determine that the product is safe for the public? Safe for your children? Aren't they supposed to make sure that things are safe before they go into the public domain? That's what they say. Now, it does beg the question, didn't they bother to ask? Didn't they bother to ask? Or were they not concerned about the safety of the product before it went into the public? Well, that's utter beggar's belief, because SAHPRA ought to be concerned about the safety of the public, aren't they? That's what they say in every single one of their media releases. Now, if they say actually they were told, then the question is, given what they were told, if they received that information that showed that over 1,200 people died and that there's over 1,293 adverse effects that people had suffered during the trials that Pfizer conducted themselves, and the people died from blood clots, suffered blood clots, and several other Guillain-Barré syndrome, all of that. Why hadn't they warned the public about this? But you see, some serious questions to be asked. And what they did was they sought to ensure through this group, Section 27, to ensure that that hearing did not take place on the 28th. So that case is now postponed again. So every time the truth is to be brought to the public, there is these external organizations that interfere into your judiciary and the judicial process and interferes with your rights. It is well overdue that we start taking responsibility for ourselves. This is not going to happen from the government. You can see your government is falling over their feet. They're trying to think, they're scheming and planning. What are their reasons now? They have no reasons to have these rules in place. None of them. They are now figuring out. This is why they are managing your expectations to say to you, oh, we may. Remember that video I made? So one thing that says, we are contemplating to put these regulations in place again. You may be required to wear a mask again. You may be. Look, the same circumstances prevail here in the UK. Nobody wears a mask. As I said to you before, you can fly to the UK today and you will not be required to do a PCR test. You will not be required to be injected with any of that substance. And when you land over here, there is no requirement upon you to isolate or test or whatever whatsoever. And you do not need to wear a mask anywhere at all. What is the matter with the South African government? If it is the government at all. Where did they take their instructions from? It's time that they start taking their instructions from the people. And it's high time. So the next phase is going to be absolutely critical. We're going to need to do an information and awareness drive right on the grounds. And for that, we're going to need your support. We're going to need more financial support so that we can get on the road. We need to put things in pamphlets, in leaflets. We need to create things that are available in people's languages. You know, the law provides that the government should be doing this, but you can see your government isn't doing this. So it's going to be up to us to start taking control and also to make the public better aware about how the government is neglecting on their duties. Now, I was told, Pearl told me that Cyril Ramaphosa went out the other day to the stadium and he wasn't well received. The people booed every time he spoke. Poor Cyril. Isn't that sad? It just shows you people are busy waking up. So keep waking people up. Keep your donations coming so that we can structure our next port of action, which is an awareness drive. We need to take the country by storm and make sure that we reach every single person in South Africa. That people are well aware. The next time when Cyril Ramaphosa and these, they come here with their gimmicks and they want to come and do these little public relations stunts that people will tell them straight to their face. We know what you're up to, mate. You no longer work for the public. You don't take your instructions from us. You take your instructions from somewhere else. Your time is up. I'll leave you to that. Any questions? Pamphlets in different languages? Yes, Hendo, that's what you're saying, ASAP. And so we can get the word out. And also, as I say, but I can't, you know, obviously I can't be saying it on here, but I plan to come down to South Africa myself too, so that we can take this matter to the streets, into every city, into every town, and we have to be considerate also of people who may not be able to travel. One of the ladies said that yesterday in one of our private meetings, that she said we have to think about how we can bring other people who may not be able to travel perhaps to one point where we can organize buses and so on, so we can bring people and we can inform them. And you know, we're gonna all have a lovely picnic, music and dance, information sessions, discussions, questions and answers, and just have some real good fun and picnic whilst we inform everybody else and we spread a little love. How about that? That, my friends, I'll leave you to that. As I say, as soon as we get the document, I will publish it here, and more information in the course of the week as we go. We are not discouraged because we know what the truth is, and we're going to get there. All right? Stay strong, stay upbeat, stay awake, and keep fighting for your rights. And I always forget to say this. I note obviously some people sending friend requests to me. You're more than welcome to do so, but just remember, obviously, I would much rather want to meet you in a video call first, so that I can know, so that I know that it's you who sent the friend request. Because there's a rather concerning development that happened this afternoon concerning our lawyer. So I won't say much about that just yet, but I've suggested to our lawyer to go and report the matter at the police. Okay, so it is very important that we take good care and that we are cautious about, you know, you shouldn't just be taking, you know, someone sends you a friend request and click accept. We need to know who it is. And also, I am not sending anyone any friend requests. So please, if you get a friend request that comes in my name, it doesn't come from me. All right, rather come and maybe pop a message on here and tag me in and ask, did I send you a friend request? And I will confirm yay or nay to you. All right, and also check with another friend. There's many people's accounts are being cloned, and they're being misrepresented, and people start sending information out which may not be true. We want to make sure that you get the right information, reliable, because our lives depend on this. We don't take any of this lightly. This is very serious, very serious. Yes, Estelle, thank you very much. I appreciate you too. And I do read your comments, really read each and every one of your comments. And I will disclose to you fairly soon the copy of the appeal document that we have submitted, because this document, the judgment, is highly questionable. Well, it's very, very questionable. We need to see the original document. Share this video with your friends. And hey, Wake Up's YouTube channel is alive and kicking. Get yourself down there and click the subscribe button. Subscribe, and share with your friends to subscribe too. That, my friends, I wish you all a lovely evening, and I should be speaking to you fairly real soon. I will be checking out any of the comments and any questions that you may have, and I will reply to them in due time. Remember, tomorrow morning, 5:45 a.m., I will be on the radio on the blower SAFM. We'll be talking to them. Peace out. Stay strong, stay awake, and keep fighting for your rights. Goodbye.